All right, great. So let's create a payment gateway. But first, let's talk about BIP39 addresses. So there's a lot of stuff that you're going to be pretty fresh on in terms of not having worked with the technologies before. I'm going to just really quickly going over. So I don't know what your facility is with Node. It's not too terribly difficult. I've got a small project here with a couple of files in it. Let's just go into it. So I use Vim. Don't get alarmed. It's a kind of an interesting text editor, huh?
Yeah, I'm an Emacs fan. But yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. I use neither now. So.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, so this is a pretty much empty project right now, but what we'll be doing is bringing in some things from a couple of other places. So BIP39 is its own package in NPM.
Mm-hmm.
So Node Package Manager.
Gotcha. Familiar.
Yes. So essentially, it controls the mnemonic code for generating deterministic keys. This is like, let's say you happen to have, I'll just start one up. So let's say you happen to have, oh, can't find it, sure. All right. All right, so let's say you happen to have a mnemonic that is candy, maple, cake, sugar, pudding, cream, honey, rich, smooth, crumble, sweet, and treat. This is just a generic mnemonic.
For the seed phrase generation. Correct?
Exactly. So one of the really cool things that we have available to us is a package called Truffle, and it is sort of a development environment for Ethereum smart contracts. You'll definitely want to look this up. I'll send you the link.
Is this being recorded? I'll have it for reference.
Yeah. You'll have it later. I'll also send you.
I'll write some stuff down too. I have a notepad, so I got Truffle down.
Oh yeah, totally.
Truffle framework.
Yeah.
All right, looking again. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah. That actually is really cool. There are a couple of things you can do in it in terms of compiling your smart contracts and running tests and stuff like that. It also has its own web server for running like decentralized applications and things like that. The only reason I'm bringing the development environment is to showcase the mnemonic and what it can do. So based off of this mnemonic, it's created these private keys off of that. You would never want to really use this in production because everyone has access to this particular phrase. But what it's generated are all of these addresses, right? All of these private keys and all of these accounts, which are just basic Ethereum addresses. With that, what it lets you do is, let me go to OCC contracts. It lets you do a couple of things, like I'm just going to use the network, the Ropstein network really quickly. So I have a completely different seed in this application, and it's going to generate a bunch of them. And indices matter, so like index 0 through 9, and I have some other neat stuff in that script that will check the balance of the addresses and display them as well. But this is all of this is controlled through BIP39. So through a couple of utilities, there's the HD key, Ethereum JS, utils, and stuff like that. So all of those things help. What I would like to do is get you to where you need to be in order to work on the first piece. I'd like to get this in progress over here and start work on it. Maybe assign that to you.
To generate addresses from the HTC phrase.
Yeah. So.
And that's what you use the you use that other just function to get the file and read it from kind of behind the server lines and use it to show it to the merchant, or is that for the generation of addresses that we would reuse for a merchant to receive?
That's for the latter. So what we need is essentially, I need the generation piece pulled out of these other projects. So I'm going to send you some files and some guides. Probably going to list them inside of this issue, but I need that to be mostly standalone. And testing for in terms of testing, I tend to use Mocha in Node. So
I am okay, cool.
Yeah, so I'll kind of set up the sort of the stubs for tests and what have you, and use that as a
I
good.
can do that if you have
Okay.
other things. I need definitely exactly what the specs of the job would be. So with the address generator, I'm guessing you need to generate it and save it and have that be modular. And so I guess when we're assigning these addresses to a merchant, um, I'll just keep listing. So I think
Yes.
that is kind of those two phrases though are my goals for this project, correct?
Right, for this issue, it's address generation, and I'm gonna go really quickly and look up. Yeah, okay, so we'll probably skip QR codes for today, but mostly focus on how to generate addresses from a seed. There's going to be a completely separate piece that's wrapped around using PGP to encrypt the seed, and having the process for Node run under a user account that has access to that PGP key. So everything's encrypted at rest when we're creating the addresses for merchants.
Oh, okay. So
We
that's
don't have, essentially, we don't have access, and anyone attacking the machine would need to get past a lot more Linux infrastructure in order to pull anything useful from the configuration files, because the seed's going to be something kind of like this. So skip that. Yeah, here we are. So in here, I'm just going to print out what my mnemonic looks like when I save it to GitHub and stuff like that. So that's how it'll be saved.
So you save it
In
as a
configs.
PGP message where we're going to encrypt it with our kind of master PGP key to get them unencrypted. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
So that piece, we can check these files in. And not have to worry about sort of controlling the privacy of that. It's pretty safe in terms of what we're dealing with here. Having everything encrypted at rest, even even if, for instance, we might be actually taking ASCII armored PGP keys from merchants if they want things like their email or whatever encrypted. So if anyone asked us, hey, who are your users and what are their emails and phone numbers and what have you, um, only our service account would have the ability to decrypt and send emails or anything like that, any notifications that we need. But just if anyone got into Mongo or something like that, they wouldn't know what the values were, and we wouldn't know what the values were. So I think that's kind of the best way to have it, where we just don't have access to that. So that's a completely separate issue, but first I want the generation of the addresses, and then we'll go and encrypt the seed from which that the generation occurs. So we'll focus on that. That's going to require three packages. So BIP39.
Cool. That's the seed generation package itself. Cool.
Right. Yeah. So there's that. HD key and Ethereum JS util.
npm. I got these written down. HD key. Just blanking on the first one real quick. Ethereum JS.
Ethereum JS util, and all of these will be put directly into the issue, so that
Okay, got it.
yeah, so no worries there. And a quick example of how that works, we'll want to write tests on this, sort of just to make sure we can run it. And I think it'll be best if we promisify it, I guess. So are you familiar with promises in JavaScript?
Yes, but what do you mean by permissify?
Okay, so instead of returning, taking the seed in and returning it, what we'll have is actually return a promise.
Are you familiar with the term thunk, like an anonymous kind of promise? Or you return them?
Well, so it's not going to be anonymous, but you're essentially just returning a promise. Like, I'm sure I have it in here somewhere. Here we go. So, like so.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Okay. Yeah. So I understand why. That's what I was thinking. So.
Okay. So right now, let's go back to the project. It's pretty empty right now. There's not a lot going on here. I'm going to create a source directory, and one of the things I've done in the past is sort of treat things as stores. So let's see. Just going to showcase some of the things I've done before. A lot of times I'll have like static files or whatever share some of the core files. So like they're in this particular scenario, I'm using React and stuff like that, but I have some core files that are actions, observers. There are some providers, like for instance, what's bringing, how to instantiate Web3, and then their stores, like, get an account, you get the various blocks, get some events off the blockchain. What is, here's one that the only job of this particular store is to get the current gas price. It's yeah. So and most of these things are based off of promises or whatever. So for instance, I'm not sure that the version of these secrets, yeah, so it's not returning a promise at the moment. And it might be in fact that it's it's a little bit IO bound, but it might be fast enough that we can have this be synchronous. So let's leave that as a to do to figure out whether or not I actually do need to whether or not we need to return a promise, and we might not. We might just want to return the address, and then just have that, and have a script or two that pretty simply return something that we can run on the command line to test this piece, so that we can just pass it an index or something like that, and let it run. So we'll work together on this, but I kind of wanted to make sure you had sort of a starting point of where to go with this. But that's pretty much it. It's pretty simple address generation off of a mnemonic. The password is going to be pretty interesting, because one of the things we can do is have the merchant send in a password, and that will take that phrase, which you've seen already, and it'll make completely different private keys and completely different addresses if you're using the same mnemonic, but you're using a different passphrase, which is kind of cool. So even that gives you a little extra security in terms of and it's something that we will want to enable in terms of having that in the function, but most of the time it's the password itself is undefined, and all you're getting is the passphrase and not the password. But if we enable something like that, then every merchant would have a completely different hierarchical, like a completely different tree of accounts from
So
the
you
other
need, it's like an
merchants.
and. You need both to get into the account every time.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, so let's talk about logins for just a brief moment, and then call it a day.
Mhm.
I was thinking that a cooler thing than actually storing any passwords at all would be to have um, the like we'll create something unique and signed by us. The merchant has to determine what it is and then sign it with their key. So and all of that stuff is pretty simple to take care of in a decentralized application. So when they're signing in, they would, let's say they might need to connect MetaMask or connect a Trezor wallet or something like that. Or if they're running from inside their own wallet, or if we created our own wallet, we could have the application sign their password, or which is just a throwaway GUID or something like that we create.
Mm-hmm.
So we never store a password. Their password is, could you successfully sign a secret between us and them with their private key for an Ethereum address. So
So in layman's terms, that would mean like if you're eligible to send what does that mean?
well, yeah. So like let's say let me go really quickly and I don't know. Let's do something simple. Oh, um, let's go look at this, and I'm just gonna log into a completely different account here. Okay, so this is MetaMask on the Ropstein network, and I have an account here. Let's see. There we go. Oh yeah, so I've done the QR code generation before, and something we're going to need again. But yeah, so this is going to run a particular.
This is that first arrow on the flowchart diagram where it goes to the PayPal-esque gateway, kind of. That's this
Right.
kind of
Well,
functionality.
something like that. So this whole piece here where you're confirming a transaction, what MetaMask is asking me to do is to sign this transaction. Now, instead of signing a transaction, what we would do is have MetaMask display the secret and then say, okay, sign this phrase for us and submit that. And what it
Oh,
would
so it's
do,
kinda like, is this the real site? Sort of like a cap, like just to prevent.
no, it's like, can you sign this secret? And if you can sign the secret, it's not going to send any money or any or perform a transaction on the blockchain. It's just going to sign it, and we're going to capture that in JavaScript and then send it back to our servers. And if it matches their address and it's signed by them, then that's as good as their login, and they don't have to remember logins because their Ethereum wallet is going to remember their private key, and if they have access to their private keys, that's as good as a signature.
Oh, so okay, so all right, sweet. All right, so their private key signs it, and that returns the server. That's the login for the
Right.
wallet.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. This example is just the old airdrop in Ropstein, granted. So
Well, yeah.
so yeah, that is pretty much it.
So let me just reiterate.
Yeah.
Okay, so to clarify, I believe my first couple tasks are get the seeds generated from the mnemonic and implement what needs to. So the mnemonic is generated, and I need to go from the. So I guess I'm just looking. I was looking at the GitHub.
Yeah.
The part I fill in that is missing that would be different from the BIP39 as standard is the function there. We have to fill that one that you showed me the main screen of at the end of the show of the code that you just did. The last screen, I think. Okay.
So the inputs are index, seed phrase or mnemonic, index, and password. So
And the mnemonic is that's going to be generated, so that's taken care of.
yeah. So for this issue, let's put gosh, what was that? Let's just use this. Let's use this seed. It's the test ones.
Okay. All right, cool. So I don't do that part, and I do the rest. I use the
Yes.
after the mnemonic. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah. So we're gonna want to play around with including passing in undefined or whatever. So that's pretty much it. Yeah, I took off one piece because I think that's kind of separate. Assigning them to merchants will be a different piece. And there you have it.
Yeah, that's enough instruction. Do you have a specific deadline?
No.
Would Wednesday be, or just any time? But Wednesday the latest. Is that problematic for
No,
next
not
week?
at all. I think that will be, it's more about just understanding the pieces that are the moving parts and what have you. We don't really have a deadline. It's open source work, and it's you know volunteering. So we're not going to really push that hard, but we do need these pieces in for the first phase. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I wouldn't worry about any more than that.
Cool.
Yeah,
All right. Well, thank you.
yeah. Thank you.
All right, sweet. I'm excited. I'll get on this and I'll keep you posted.
All right, thanks.
All right, see. And my GitHub page is fine to just pull, and you'll give me a. Do I have permission on that for you to push?
Oh
And
yeah, you've got permissions to push right now. It's pretty safe to push a master, but once we get more than 2 people in there, we'll start using PRs and what have you. I mean, we can do that now if you would like.
I don't mind branching. I can do that myself.
Oh yeah, fine. Yeah, yeah, but you have access to the repo, so yeah, clone away.
All right, man. Sounds great. Have a great night. And thank you for this bit of your time.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, cool.
All right, bye.